All right. Do you have a favorite plugin or DAW that inspires some aspects of Blockhead? Yes, Renoise. I miss when practically all DAWs were able to send audio over to an audio editor for precise editing. Do you see something like that making it in Blockhead or a clip editor of its own, like the sample editor in Renoise? Yes, I would. That's something that I would like. I would prefer something where you could uh, open a piece of audio in an external sample editor, like something that's actually been made to do proper sample editing, like Audacity or something like that. Um, the limitation there would be um, there might be there might be a limit on the size of the sample that you can do that for, because in order to implement that, you would need to um, I would need to temporarily save it to disk and then open the file in the external editor and then watch that temporary file for changes, basically waiting for the user to save in the external editor, and then it would like auto update in Blockhead. Um, so if the file is too big, then there would be some kind of like massive. There could potentially be a sort of delay while things are being written and read from disk. I'm not sure. Maybe it's so like quick to write and read WAV files that it wouldn't actually matter. I don't know. But yes, that is something that I would like to do. What has been the most interesting technical challenge in development so far? Any particularly satisfying aha moments or clever solutions that you are especially proud of? Um, I try not to implement clever solutions to things because I'm not that clever. So I tend to try to implement things in the simplest way that I know. There's definitely been moments. Um, there's been these moments that happen over and over again in development where I will I will be working on something that I um, don't yet have the experience to actually solve, and um, so one of the nice things about working on Blockhead is like the amount of knowledge and experience that I'm gaining just in software development. Um, so like early on, I would have these moments. I remember one of the first things I ever worked on in Blockhead was the waveform rendering stuff, because I had to work out all of this like proprietary stuff for like proprietary is the wrong word, but this bespoke logic for rendering waveforms and having them update very, very quickly in cases where, for example, if you change the pitch or the speed of a sample and um, it has like knock-on effects for the entire sample visually. Um, the reason that you don't often see that in audio software, and if you do, it's usually just one waveform on the screen at a time that you see it happening. Is because it's a massive pain in the ass. It's a very difficult sort of technical challenge to pull that off and have it like in Blockhead, where you can you can manipulate the pitch, the pitches or the speeds of multiple samples simultaneously, and it happens the visual update for that happens very, very quickly, and it's because Blockhead deals with sample data in a very particular way. Anyway, when I first started working on that, this is very, very early on in development. I guess it's like 4 years ago now. Um, I remember getting to the point where I was like, okay, this is just not something that I'm going to be able to do because this is just beyond my skill set. But I just kept plugging away at it, and I just kept trying and trying and trying, and uh, and eventually I got there. And that was a I didn't realize that at the time, but that was like quite an important milestone, because um, I've had lots of experiences since then where I've been working on something where I feel like I simply am not able to figure it out, and I'm able to just remind myself that I've been in that situation lots of times now, and every time the solution is to just keep trying and just keep slaving away at it, even if I'm pulling my hair out and you know, feeling like um, feeling like there's no possible way I can solve it. If I just keep thinking about it and investigating things, then eventually it will get done. What was the question? Any particularly satisfying aha moments or clever solutions that you're especially proud of? No, not really. I'm not really proud of any code that I write. Because I'm not very into sort of. I'm more into like trying to get things done rather than code quality. I remember like another thing that really influenced me. This is not like part of the question, but many years ago I was following this guy called, I think his name is a German guy called Anselm Eickhoff, I think his name was. He was working on this like city builder project that he was working on at the time. It was like a Sim City type thing. And I remember like tuning into one of his Twitch streams. This was like many years before I started working on Blockhead. And I was just watching him code, and he at the time he was writing it all in JavaScript, and then he later changed to Rust, I think. And I remember just looking at this code that he was writing. He was writing some code to like, it was some part of like the traffic simulation stuff. And the code was like the most garbage code you've ever seen. But he was just plugging away at it, and just it was just like massive like nested if statements and these massive functions with all this like really twisted logic, and he was just like it didn't matter how messy the code was. The only thing that mattered was the fact that he was just persistent in trying to solve whatever the problem of. I think it was like trying to get cars to merge into another lane in a very particular corner case or something like that. And because the point is just to get it working, and then you can worry about code quality afterwards. Like getting things working and like visually working on the screen as quickly as possible is really important. So that sort of influenced me in the way that I sort of approach. This is like completely not anything to do with the question, right? Will an API for creating plugins like in Renoise or Reaper be available later? Lua C++. Yes, because I'm using the Godot game engine. That has very huge ramifications for modding capabilities. Because with Godot, what you can do is you can load in custom. There's a built-in scripting language in Godot called GDScript, and you can load GDScript at runtime on the fly. You can just load in GDScript and run it if you want to. And the other thing that you can do, which is very interesting, is you can I can allow people to design their own Godot scenes. There's these things called scene files, which are basically allow you to do whatever you want in the engine, pretty much. It allows you to you can design like UI elements using the Godot editor and then save it as a sort of a package file. And then I could have Blockhead, and then you can save like custom GDScript within that package. And then you can have Blockhead load that while it's running and potentially add interface elements to Blockhead, which have been designed by other people. So that's really interesting. That would be like we're super down the line if I decide to do something like that. But that's more, I think, I'm not familiar with Reaper scripting, but I assume it's pretty extensive from what I've seen. Renoise is pretty. I have played around with Renoise Lua stuff in the past, and that's pretty restrictive, I think. But we can potentially do some like really. We could potentially really open up Blockhead with modding capabilities in the future because it's just using Godot, and Godot makes that really easy. What made you snap and start making your own DAW? It was a bunch of things all happening at the same time. One was like losing my job at the time, around the start of COVID, and the other thing was just I'd been making music for like 15 years at that point, and I was just having these like long periods of difficult sort of creative block that I couldn't like I would sit down to make a piece of music in the same way that I had done many times before, and I just wouldn't be able to do anything. And they say like a poor workman blames his tools, and I decided to be a poor workman and blame my tools rather than blame myself. So back when I first started making electronic music, as soon as I started using the software, I guess it would have been like FL Studio 3 or whatever it was at the time. And then I moved on to like, I tried a bunch of stuff, Ableton Live, and then Reason I used for a long time, and Cubase I tried. I tried a bunch of stuff, and I always just had that feeling in the back of my mind of like clearly I'm not going to say a better way of doing things, but there is an alternative way of doing things that exists that is surely very obvious to everybody, and would potentially map a bit closer to the way that I think about music in my mind. Not a better way of doing things, but just an alternative. And I always just thought all I need to do for that alternative to be realized is wait, because eventually someone's just going to make it. Some software company is going to make it, and so Blockhead was partially me just getting tired of waiting. What was your coding background? Related projects you did? I worked for 10 years in the graphics industry doing not really anything to do with graphics, and I acquired a very intimate knowledge of the differences between the various versions of the OpenGL specification and not much else. So I didn't really learn anything useful other than just like general C++ application development. So there was nothing related to audio programming that I did before working on Blockhead other than reactor programming. So that was like, so the little, so that's basically just pure DSP. Reactor is it's just like visually connecting up wires and things. So that was my audio knowledge, was reactor, and then I think I understood a little bit about the stipulations on like the real-time audio thread in audio programming. I sort of had read about it, but I'd never done anything in practice. What is the most important lesson or lessons learned so far during development? focused on audio and or audio development if possible. I'll try to be careful here to not go on a massive rant, because this is something that really annoys me. The most important lesson in audio development is to not pay any attention to anybody who tells you that in order to be an audio programmer, you need to be good at mathematics, because that is a fucking lie. And it is a lie that for some reason is propagated among audio developers. I said just the other day on Twitter, I saw like a thread of a guy saying here's like the things you need to be aware of if you want to get into audio development. And like number one was you need to have a very strong mathematical foundation in order to do audio programming. I can tell you, I've been working on DAW for 4 years, and I would say this is not an exaggeration. About 0.01% of my time is spent doing anything related to DSP or mathematics. It's mainly just general application development stuff that you would be doing in any kind of application development. It's trying to figure out how to structure things at a high level, how to figure out how to get data from one place in the program to another, how to wire together different modules of code that have been sort of encapsulated in certain ways, refactoring, debugging. It's not maths. And so even if the thing that really annoys me about that is, even if it was correct that you need to have this like strong mathematical foundation in order to be an audio programmer, that would still be terrible fucking advice to give to anybody, because that's not it doesn't make any sense. Like, just figure out what it is that you want to make, start working on it. At some point you'll get to a point, you'll hit some kind of roadblock in development where you realize that there is some piece of knowledge or something that you don't know, which you are going to be required to learn in order to proceed with building the thing that you're building. And it could be mathematics, or it could be anything else. So just work on the thing that you're working, get to that roadblock, learn precisely the thing that you need to learn in order to proceed, and then get back on with it. This idea that you should open up a mathematics textbook and obtain this like general this sort of just general knowledge of mathematical subjects just in case they happen to pop up during development doesn't make any fucking sense. And also, the only way you truly learn something, I think, is to have some problem that you're trying to solve, and to have something that you're trying to progress in the real world, and in order to progress it you have to learn that thing. That is the point where you actually truly learn that thing. That's my opinion. Okay. What bugs you most about other DAWs? Nothing really bugs me about other DAWs. The instrument limit in Renoise bugs me. Renoise is still my favourite DAW, but if you ask me for what bugs me in other DAWs, because Renoise is the DAW that I've used the most, that's what I'm going to be thinking about. Favourite feature in another DAW? I don't really think in terms of features, to be honest. But my favourite thing about Renoise in particular is the way that samples are sort of treated like first-class citizens, in that when you load a sample into Renoise, a sample automatically is an instrument all by itself. It's not just this piece of data that you have to like create some kind of instrument. You don't have to create some kind of sample player instrument within the door and then load the sample into that instrument and then have this like view into the sample data through this instrument. Um, Instead, the sample itself is the instrument. And so the moment you like load a sample into Noise, you can immediately like play it up and down the piano, like it's an instrument. And if you want to do other things with it, the interface is just there to do it. Anyway, oh my god, what is that? I think it was a bee. If funding allows for it, would you ever hire other people to help with Blockhead? Yes. That is. I'm saving up a little bit of money every month, after like rent and food from Patreon, because I'm in that awkward position now where I'm making more money than I need to live every month, but nowhere near enough money to hire a second C++ developer. And that's what it's going to have to be. If I want to hire somebody who's actually going to help in a really impactful way, it's going to be a second C++ developer, and they're really expensive. So yeah, that's my dream, is to have. I've said this a bunch of times before, but Blockhead is like long past the point now of being a one-man job. And a second developer would really help a lot, I think. So hopefully one day I'm going to keep saving up, and then I don't know, I might be able to get to the point where I can like hire somebody for a 6-month contract or something like that. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Anyway, that is questions. Whoop.